Welcome to Upticks with Jake Falcon, founder and CEO of Falcon Wealth Advisors. In this podcast, we help high net worth individuals overcome financial complexities. We do this by enhancing financial literacy and discussing topics in a language free from industry jargon. Join us as we help explain exactly what having a solid financial plan means, as Jake draws from years of experience in helping hundreds of individuals get financially organized and focused on their goals. We hope you find Upticks educational, entertaining, and shareable. Now, on to the show.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode 233, Good Money Habits. Corey, thank you for joining me back on the show.
Good morning, Jake. Thanks for having me.
You know, and this week, it's just back to you and I. It's not so crowded on Upticks, which has been fun, though, bringing on our financial planners, our investment analyst, our portfolio manager. It's a lot of fun. But this week, we thought you and I could handle it, and we really wanted to get into good money habits. Corey, before we go into today's episode, though, a real quick plug, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed to our content on your favorite podcast platform or on YouTube, we would highly, highly, highly encourage you to do so. That's the best way to make sure you don't miss another episode of Upticks. Our subscriber count continues to grow. Our downloads and views continues to grow. So that's really exciting. And again, the whole point of this is that clients choose to work with us at Falcon Wealth Advisors to enhance their financial literacy and explain exactly what their financial plan means to them. So that's really what this show's about. It's about you, the viewer, the listener, and hopefully getting some good information out there so that you can feel more confident about your financial situation. But Corey, anything fun going on in your life before we get into today's topic?
Not too much new and exciting, Jake. I've been playing a lot of racket sports lately. I've been playing a lot of tennis through the winter, which is unusual for me typically. So playing inside the bubble, not outdoors. But playing platform tennis as well. And of course, getting excited here for the Super Bowl. How about you?
Yeah, so, you know, I squeezed in a round of golf, which was pretty cool. Corey, I haven't played since November. So I took a long hiatus. I was playing pretty poorly at the end of the year, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to really surround myself in work at Falcon Wealth Advisors so I don't feel guilty about playing golf in the spring or the summer. But it was fun. I got to play on a Sunday. You know, there was a little pocket there. I think it was like 58 degrees and no wind. You know, the golf course was in great shape, believe it or not. And the greens were a little shaggy because they don't really mow them. So I'm going to blame that on why I didn't putt so well. But if I would have putted well, I actually would have played well. So it's very encouraging knowing that I was playing so badly that I've got some of that rust or that bad mojo seems like it went away. So that's good. So I mean, I'm inspired for the spring. Good. And yeah, we're recording this before the Super Bowl, Corey, but this will be out well after the Super Bowl. So hopefully the Chiefs won. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. It doesn't matter because this will be out way after the Super Bowl. Compliance takes a while to get these things edited and published out there. But for today's show, Corey, we want to talk about good money habits. Last year in 2022, I had around 500 meetings with clients and potential clients. Do you know how many you had?
Yeah, it was just over 400.
Yeah, so you had 4. So we almost had 1,000 meetings combined, and that's just 1 year. So if you look at our careers, we've literally had thousands and thousands of meetings with all types of people, some of which have really bad money habits, and many of which have really good money habits. So for today's show, though, we wanted to focus on some of the good money habits, not only that we offer our clients or suggest that our clients do, but some good money habits, Corey, that you and I have come across in having thousands of meetings over our careers. And number one, I've got a list over here. So if I look off camera, that's what I'm looking at here. So number one, Corey, is I want people to bring awareness to money, right? And so some people, I'm not saying that you need to worship money, and I'm not saying that you need to hate money. You need to bring awareness to it. It is a tool. It's a vehicle. It's a means to an end. It's part of playing in society. Like you need to have money to function, unless you're going to go live off the land, which more power to you. If you're living off the land, though, you're probably not watching this or listening to this, Corey, right? Because you don't have
not worried about your money habits.
Right. Well, you don't have data, so you probably aren't paying for an internet connection, right, or whatever. So, so unless you're living off the land, which again, that's awesome, people to do that. Otherwise, you're gonna have to have money in your life, right? And you want to bring awareness to that. And one question, Corey, I'll kick us off here. One question that we ask most all of our clients is, why is money important to you? So Corey, I want you to answer it if you don't mind for our viewers. Why is money important to you? And then maybe we can share some of our common answers.
It's important to me for security purposes and also for opportunities.
Good. So security and opportunities. Awesome. What are some common question or common responses that you hear from clients?
Utility, which I think is pretty straightforward, but that kind of reinforces your point, Jake, which is that money is a means to an end, right? The intention in working and earning and saving and investing is so those dollars can be spent. And I frankly think that that's why that's important to a lot of people, especially our clients, as they get closer to retirement. They think about it for the purpose of utility and how it can ultimately allow them to maintain a lifestyle without going to work anymore.
Yeah. It's like we've talked about, I think, in prior episodes, that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So some people want safety, security, so they don't have to work, so they're not a burden on their kids or other family members. That's good. For me, Corey, personally, I think of money as leverage. I don't mind mowing my yard. I don't do it though. I have a great guy. He doesn't charge me hardly anything. And so rather than pay for a lawnmower, pay for gas, oil, and my time mowing the lawn, I spend that time working. I spend that time with my wife and my dog Einstein, or I spend that time playing golf, right? And so again, I don't mind doing it, but I use money so that I can either go make more money or go spend time with my wife or doing something that I enjoy doing. To me, that's worth it. So other people, it's not worth it, and that's fine, right? There's no judgment here, but that's how I see money as leverage to be able to live the life or to work where I'm helping people so I can help more people. If I had to leave, once a week to go mow my lawn, work early, that's 1 or 2 less meetings a week I could be having with my clients. So I'd rather be meeting with clients. Another question, Corey, and I'll go down the list here. You can feel free to chime in, obviously. But what's your favorite thing to spend money on?
So I have 2 things. I thought about this, Jake, before we recorded. One is traveling with my wife, and the second, as you know, Jake, is bourbon.
Bourbon, nice. And you've got, for the viewers and listeners out there, Corey's got quite the bourbon collection. He showed me. We went over to Corey's house on New Year's, and really cool, Corey. I'm a little jealous, actually. I'm not a not a big drinker, but the bourbon collection looks pretty fantastic. So if any clients are watching this, you should hit up Corey to go taste some of his bourbon, because he's got some pretty cool collection growing there.
The best part about having the collection is being able to share it.
Yeah, good. That's good. Good for you. I don't know if I'd be that generous if I had that good of a bourbon collection. I probably just want to drink it myself if I was doing that. But mine is golf. What's that?
Sorry, I was going to ask you what your favorite thing is to spend money on.
Yeah, mine's obviously golf and my wife, pretty much. Like I like seeing her happy. We've got some nice stuff, furniture, we're doing little things around our house. She enjoys it. She doesn't have really that expensive a taste, but I do like spending money on Rachel and golf. Pretty simple. I don't like to travel, but I don't mind spending money on it. But I don't like to spend money on it like you do, probably as much. And then our last point here in bringing awareness is, who taught you about money? This is a little bit deeper thought here, Corey, but who taught you about money?
My family. I don't have the one specific moment from when I was a young child and, my father taught me about stacking quarters together, whatever it might be. I know that those stories exist for a lot of people, and I think that's great. I don't have that distinct memory, but understanding the importance of money and ultimately working to earn money. My brother and I both actually started working at around 13 or 14 years old. And I think that was a really valuable experience for us that was instilled in us from our parents to understand the value of money and earning it.
Right. Mine's pretty similar. I had an allowance, so I had to work and do some chores to make an allowance. My dad made it very apparent to me that you shouldn't argue about money in your family. He hates that. So that kind of stuck with me. That's one of the reasons that I work hard, so that money isn't a stressful part of Rachel's and my lives. But one thing though, I wanted people to be careful about though, is that you have to understand, and this doesn't really apply to my family, but I hear some clients come in and they say, well, my parents or my grandparents told me not to have any debt, so therefore I don't want to have any debt. And that may have been true in their era, because maybe they grew up in the Depression, or when interest rates on a mortgage were 15%, well, that might not be the best case for you. So that's a good question to ask people or ask yourself is like, where did I learn about money? And do those rules still apply today? I mean, again, I'm not saying that that's horrible advice to be debt-free. It sounds on the surface like a good thing. But if you have a mortgage and it's at 3% and your money is making you 7%, does it really make sense to pay off that mortgage? I just want to challenge people to say, hey, I'm not trying to tell you that your parents or grandparents were wrong. I'm saying in their environment, it probably made sense, but we're in a new environment and let's just make sure we're having good money habits or good money decisions right now. Good. Anything that I missed on the awareness part?
No, I don't think so. I just wanted to share this with a quick anecdote, Jake. I think you'll be able to appreciate this. So I worked as a caddy at 14 years old. And I do distinctly remember my mother especially explaining, setting money aside, how to save, not necessarily investing at that point, but really how to plan for some type of major expense, Jake. And I'll never forget how proud I was when I was 14 years old and I walked into a golf shop of all places, and I bought a King Cobra driver with the money that I had worked hard to save from caddying. And that was actually a valuable experience in understanding. All right, I'm going to work, set this money aside, do this for a particular reason. I think we're going to get a little bit more into that further in the show too. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, thanks for sharing. But yeah, those are good memories to have and good, hopefully, lessons that you can pass on through generations or through your clients, right? So our next point that we wanted to make, so we get the awareness, right? So you got to bring awareness money. You've got to respect it for what it's worth. I mean, you can't disrespect it. You got to understand it. But also, I think what's very important, I think we've talked about this on prior episodes of Upticks, is that you want to align your spending with your values, right? So if you are a church-going person and you think it's very important to tithe to your church, then you definitely should allocate that in your budget and your spending, right? That's a very clear value. Or maybe you're a coffee drinker or don't like coffee and you find yourself spending money on coffee even though you don't particularly like coffee. Well, then maybe you need to check in on them. Like, why am I paying for this? Like, I don't even really enjoy coffee and I'm spending $10 a day at Starbucks or whatever it is to do that. So I think it's just important that, a good exercise that I've gone through a leadership program that I'm currently taking is that I took time to list out all of my values and I check in on those. I try to check in on them weekly and make sure that my behavior and my intention is aligned with what I have decided is valuable to me. And I think if you do that and put money in that equation, you can really have some impact there and make sure that you're not wasting money on things that you don't value. Did I miss anything there, Corey?
Nope, I think that's really good.
All right, good. So let's get into some more of the habits, right? So another good habit, if you're looking at your debt, Corey, is to look at paying off your high interest debt first. Some people get this wrong, believe it or not, when they come into our office and they want to say, well, I owe a lot of money on my mortgage. Let's do it. So let's say they have $200,000 on their mortgage and they only have $20,000 on a credit card. Well, they'll actually want to say, well, I want to pay off my mortgage first because that's the bigger one. In our opinion, from a financial standpoint, it makes sense to pay off what's charging you the most interest first. So even if that credit card payment is lower or less, you have a less liability there, if the credit card interest is 15% or 20%, you're probably going to be better off paying off that first versus your mortgage. So the way we do it is we would line up all of your debt. We would get all of the interest amounts, what they are, and then you just literally start ticking off the highest interest first and tackling that and then go down the list. Some of these financial gurus out there, these self-proclaimed gurus, Corey, will tell you to pay off the lowest balance first, and that's called a snowball strategy. I disagree with it. It can be good psychologically if somebody is feeling depressed about their debt or they're having severe anxiety. Because what happens when you do the snowball, again, you would start knocking off these bills. So if let's say you had 10 credit cards, right? And it's just, you're overwhelmed by it. That's who that's for. They don't care about the interest. They just want to start knocking off some of this debt. I could see where that could be some benefit. Luckily for us, that's not usually our clients. Our clients usually only have, 3 or 4 debts that they're managing at a time, not 10. And so with us, we like to go with the highest interest first, but it doesn't necessarily mean that snowball couldn't help somebody that's having deeper psychological issues with their debt. Do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think a lot of that really comes down to, there's the financial aspect of it, right? Pay down the highest interest rate first. That makes a lot of sense. That's purely financial. But I really think if somebody finds themselves grappling with how to pay down the debt that they've accumulated, figuring out a system that works for you is what's most important. For some people, it's going to be tackling the highest interest rate first, like you said, Jake. For some people, the snowball effect of just paying down a credit card first and then applying those same payments towards the next one and so on and so forth. It may end up costing somebody more interest managing in that way, but if that works for them and it helps them to accomplish and achieve what they're trying to do, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and a quick side note I've been seeing on social media lately, Corey, is that I think a big misconception is some people think you need to carry a credit card balance because that actually helps your credit card score. And to my knowledge, it doesn't. So I would highly encourage people to pay off your credit cards every month, keeping a balance and paying them interest. I think with the credit agencies, they're looking at how much available credit you have, not that you're running a balance. So it's okay to keep the card open, but you go ahead and pay off that balance every month. You don't need to be running a balance just because that's a big misconception, I think, out there, is that pay that sucker off. You don't need to be leaving a $500 balance on your credit card and paying them 20% interest on it. There's no reason for that. Good, Corey, why don't you go into our next good money habit here? I've been kind of going through all of them. Well, it's your turn.
Sure. So the next one is to spend less than you make, which again, pretty straightforward, but I do think it's simplest. And, it's simplest for people to prioritize their own savings as effectively their first budget line item after they get their paycheck.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, you're right. Save first and then spend less than you make. Now, and I think that's easier done pre-retirement. I think the retiree actually has more difficulty with this because, you get Social Security and maybe you get a pension, maybe you don't. Maybe you have some part-time income, but then they want to spend, Corey, because they're 55 or 60 years old and they just retired. So that is something to be more careful with. And at times, retirees may spend more than they make, but as long as you don't do that each and every year, you can recover from years where you spend more than you make. But it's very important to understand and review that with your wealth advisor or your financial planner and say, hey, how much did I make last year and how much did I spend? Or how much did I lose, right? We had a bad year in the market in 2022. I lost some money and I spent some money. Jake, Corey, what does that do to my financial plan? I had a really good meeting lately with a client and I broke it down. Actually, I went through year by year for them. And I said, look, in 2020, you made this and you only spent this, right? Because I think they were feeling a little nervous because their account's down and they're retired. And so I went ahead and broke it out for them, Corey, year by year and said, well, most years you've been making quite a bit more than you spent. And then when we totaled it all up, they had actually made a lot of money over the years. But again, you have a bad year and you're pulling from your account, that can be pretty anxiety provoking. And so that's something that you definitely want to be mindful of and understand. And it's okay to do it maybe in 1 or 2 years, depending on the circumstance. But again, you don't want to do that ongoing. That'd be a bad habit if you're spending more than you're making.
Yeah, and this is just kind of on the back of the comment you just made, Jake. I also think it's a good money habit, especially if you're working with an advisor, to meet with them regularly and talk about this, because you're exactly right. If somebody is to spend more money than they made in any particular year, or perhaps they've even done it for 2 or 3 years in a row, the idea is through regular review meetings with your advisor and evaluating your financial plan and your accounts, you can understand where that stands and you can make adjustments as you need to, as opposed to just turning a blind eye to it and it having much more significant consequences later.
Yeah, that's good. That's good, Corey. Good. What's our next one?
What we have next is save just to save. I think that a lot of people think about saving money and they do it with the intention of meeting a specific goal. From my point of view, and I think maybe Jake, from your point of view too, and including this as a good money habit here, saving money just to save money is a good habit, right? Because rainy days happen. They come around every now and then, and having that good habit of putting money aside for a rainy day, for an expense, whatever it might be, you don't always have to have something specific you're going to spend the money on in order to save it. Sometimes saving just to save can be one of the best things people can do.
Right. And have you ever heard this? This money's burning a hole through my pocket. Right.
Yes.
And how many clients do you have, Corey, that say, if it's in my checking, I'll just spend it?
A lot.
right? So what we do, we can actually help encourage this behavior. A lot of our clients, Corey, will open up a brokerage account. So it's not an IRA, it's not a Roth IRA, it's not a 401k, it's a taxable account. In fact, we even call it a checking sometimes just so people understand that they have that capability. But they'll say, no, Corey, no, Jake, I don't want checks. I don't want to make this money easily accessible. I want to give you my extra money. I want you to invest it either in a treasury note, something, you know, relatively safe or liquid, or sometimes stocks, depending on the need. But I'm going to give you this money. That's my rainy day fund, because if I see it in my account, I'm just going to spend it. So you can set up things that are automatic, saying, okay, we're going to sweep over this much every month, or we're going to review it with you every quarter or every 6 months, whatever it is, to make sure that you're saving just to save. Because I think people, if they see it in their normal everyday checking account, they're thinking that's just part of their cash flow and they can spend it. So if you can just save to save, and we don't really care where it is, saving your 401k, saving a Roth IRA, saving an IRA, saving a brokerage, saving just to save, like you said, Corey, is a really good habit to start. It's a good habit to encourage your children to do, and your grandchildren, and you yourself. Even a retiree could put some money aside, right? If you're not gonna need it, if you're not going on that vacation or whatever, it's okay for a retiree to put a little bit of money aside rather than just spend it, right? And that all goes to the beginning of today's show. You know, if you were lined up with your values, you're probably not spending money on things that you don't value. And so if you have some extra, let's save it, or let's lower your distribution because maybe you don't need to pull out as much. Very good, Corey. What's our next good money habit?
So we just talked about saving in your 401k, saving in your Roth, saving in your brokerage. I think that really, speaks to tax diversification and really just the habit of saving money and doing that just to save, like we've highlighted. But we also wanted to highlight as a good money habit how to invest, and investing wisely is important. Jake, do you want to talk some about that?
Yeah, so we see people with this excess savings, or people get caught up in these fads, these meme stocks, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, private equity stuff that some people watching this show probably don't even know what I'm talking about, Corey. So I want to make sure people understand that you don't want to go chasing the hot stock or what your neighbor's sister's brother's dog did, because that's not investing, that's gambling, right? So you could have the best intentions in the world, Corey. You could put away $100,000. Say, look, Corey, I got $100,000 in cash. I've saved up. I'm going to go buy crypto with it or whatever. And then you could lose it all. So then you really deflated this good money habit. So you want to make sure that your investments are aligned with your financial plan. So not only are you spending according to your values, then we want to line up that financial plan with those values and the investments accordingly. But sometimes we'll get emails from clients saying, I want to buy this stock, I want to buy this penny stock, or blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't think they fully understand how much goes into overall portfolio construction. And there's a lot more that goes on in investing than just picking some random stock that you think is going to go up, or that your coworker, cousin works there, and blah, blah, blah. Like, so again, just want to be smart about it. If you're going to do it on your own, you need to take the time, do the research, look at analysts, look at PE ratios, fundamentals, technicals, all that stuff. Or you can hire your friends at Falcon Wealth Advisors, where we do all of that in-house for our clients, and we're happy to go over that with our clients. Do you have anything else there on invest wisely, Corey?
Yeah, I just wanted to share this. I read this quote, Jake, just this morning from Peter Lynch, who's one of the more famous and successful investors of the last probably 50 to 100 years. But Peter Lynch had a quote, Jake, where he said, when people look at a house, they're very careful. They look at the school system, they look at the street, they look at the plumbing. When they buy a refrigerator, they do their homework. And his quote was, people spend more time and effort to buy the right refrigerator than they do to pick the right investments.
Ooh, that's a good one, Corey. I've never heard that, but I love it. I love it. You're absolutely right. Some of these do-it-yourself investors, what's funny too is they only think about the ones they made money on, and they don't talk about the ones they lost money on, right? So you have to be careful, right? But again, the other argument too that I heard years ago someone say is that some people will spend more time planning their vacation than they will their retirement, right? So I get it. If you don't like this stuff, it's boring. It could be over your head. It's complex. Luckily, you and I happen to love it, right? And our team at Falcon Wealth Advisors, we built a team around us that happens to love it as well. And we're happy to go through those weeds, do the research, and make sure that you've got it built. But going into portfolio construction a little bit more, Corey, before we go over our last our last habit, is that you have to understand that not all of your stocks are typically going to be up at the same time, and the hope is that not all of them are down at the same time. So you may even have a stock in your portfolio that we're managing for you and say, Jake, why do you have that in there? It's not making any money, and my other stocks are doing great, but this one just keeps doing poorly. Why don't you get rid of it? And that's not always the case. That sector as a whole may be suffering, but that doesn't mean we want to get out of that specific company. So sometimes, definitely, we need to get out of the individual stock. But sometimes it may just be a sector or macro event going on, and that's okay, right? Because the idea is that we diversify, Corey, so that we don't have to predict the future. And that's why you diversify, so that you don't have to get lucky. Diversifying is the opposite of gambling, right? It's making sure that you're hedging your bets, right? And that you are broadly invested in different sectors and styles and companies, so that you don't have to risk getting it all right all the time. And that's the issue, is that sometimes in investing, you get lucky and you get it right, and it gives you this false sense of confidence. Well, it actually can be the worst thing for you, because then you might double down and go even more into something else, and then you get it wrong and you lose everything. So again, investing wisely is very important. If you're going to do it on your own, it's a full-time job. So you're going to want to be married. You want to go buy Bloomberg, right? Pay for that subscription. It's about $25,000 a year. You're going to want to, probably get your chartered financial analyst designation. You're going to want to make sure you can be unemotional about your decisions, and then more power to you. Or you can hire a team like us at Falcon Wealth Advisors that does those things for our clients. We have Bloomberg. We have a chartered financial analyst. We do make unemotional decisions when we're looking at our clients' portfolios. All right, good. And then our last topic, Corey, and I'll let you go first on this one, is be mindful of any and all fees that you're paying. And this doesn't just count for wealth advisors, but all fees everywhere. So why don't you chime in on this a little bit, Corey?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about this in the context here of working with an advisor and investing. Jake, you and I both know that rarely is anything going to be free, particularly in our industry. And I think it's important for people to understand that, because when someone is evaluating what they're paying in fees or in costs to an advisor, to an asset manager, whatever it might be, it's really important to understand all of the costs that are involved. And I think maybe it was by design, maybe it was with intent. Our industry, Jake, has not been the most transparent historically about that. It's interesting. It's always been fascinating to me that, for the most part, when we go and make virtually any purchase, we know what we're paying and we know what we're paying for. But when it comes to investing and money management, I don't think the same is true for a lot of people. I don't think that people understand what they're paying. And I don't think that people understand what they're paying for. So, I think that's a really valuable piece in all of this, because once you understand the cost involved, you can understand if there's value that you're actually getting for what you're paying. But don't make the assumption that someone is doing anything for you as far as managing your money goes where it's free, and recognize that any expenses applied to a portfolio, to investment management, are going to impact the returns. So finding an arrangement for you that is, is economically viable for everyone involved is ideal.
Yeah, it's good. Exactly. And, we take it to so far, Corey, is that it's literally on our website. So if you go to falconwealthadvisors.com, you can see what our services cost, right? And then we go over that with clients. And to us, it's, it's not free, right? And I always that's not a joke, I guess, but freedom isn't free. And if something is free, I would expect it to have little to no value. That's why it's free, right? And so, again, you got to pay for it, but you need to understand what you're paying. And I want to take this on a good money habit, though. You should be aware of everything that you're paying. Not that you need to be pinching pennies every month, but if you have, like, subscription services for TV now are really popular, but you might have Netflix, Hulu, Paramount, and still have cable and YouTube TV. I mean, you might be going overboard with that stuff. You'd be like, do I even watch this? What am I paying for? Right? Or your mobile phone bill, right? Or your electric bill, your water bill, your mortgage. Like, you should just be aware of where your money's going from a fee perspective. And I'm not saying that you always need to go chase the lower fee, but you need to understand, what are you paying and what are you receiving, and is the value there? And that should be the same in a wealth advisor, should be the same with your CPA, should be the same with your attorney, your dentist, whoever, right? What are you paying and what are you getting? And if you value that, that's great. If you don't, then it's time to go shopping and see what else is out there. right? Because at Falcon Wealth Advisors, Corey, we're not the most expensive advisor. We're not the cheapest, right? We think our price is appropriate for the service and the value that we bring to our clients' lives. And that's why we're transparent with it. And that's why we charge what we do, right? But again, there's always going to be somebody cheaper and there's always going to be somebody more expensive, right? It just depends on what you're getting, right? And so that's very important, but and all things, right? But as a consumer, it's up to you to be vigilant to understand what you're paying. That's part of, being an American citizen and having all the freedom is that like, okay, well, you have to be accountable for what you're doing and what you're paying and understand the value that you're getting for what you're paying. And then it's up to you to decide if it's worth it or not. All right, what a bunch of really good money habits today, Corey. Do you have any parting comments as we wrap up today?
Very good. No, I think this has been good. I just want to ask you a question, Jake, because I didn't get into this earlier, and you did a good job of kind of tying the show up there as far as understanding costs you're paying. Because again, is a way to kind of take it back to the beginning, which is aligning your spending with your values, right? What's important to you. I just wanted to ask you, Jake, do you have an example in your life that you have found something that you've spent money on that's not valuable? But by bringing awareness to that, you've been able to cut that expense out so you could prioritize things around the house with your wife or play more golf, whatever it might be?
That's interesting, Corey. The first thing that comes to mind is, and I did this a long time ago, but I used to dry clean my work shirts. But actually, they didn't do a very good job of cleaning them. So now I wash them and I iron them. Yep. So I think that's one, but I'm trying to think if I've cut anything. I just redid our property and casualty insurance. So I saved some money there. So that's another one I was pretty proud of, that we actually got more insurance for less costs, which I think is typically why people switch. But what about you, real quick? I know we're running over here a little bit, but what about you?
No, I was going to say the same thing, actually, as far as insurance goes. I think that's a good thing to shop, because what I care about is that it's a reputable company and that they'll pay a claim if somebody files one. But getting the best price for that is important. I've found this is something that's smaller, but it's something that I've observed, especially after the last few years through the pandemic. Cassie and I had sometimes probably not always the best habits where we were ordering more food to our house. I think a lot of people probably did that, used the Uber Eats, DoorDash, whatever it might be. But I've come to recognize in probably the last 6 months or so, all the costs involved in that are ridiculous from my point of view. From my perspective, a lot of the cost involved in doing that is just wasted money. So that's something that we've very much made a conscious effort to just not do, because I don't perceive the value in it.
No, it's good. It's good. All right. Well, thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, as always, Corey, for joining today's show. We hope you all have a great week, and hopefully you picked up some good money habits.
Thank you for listening to Upticks. Click the subscribe button to be notified when new episodes become available. Also, be sure to visit our website, falconwealthadvisors.com, and click the Contact Us button if you'd like to meet with Jake and his team.